John Miller sat at his desk late at night, staring at the stack of rejection letters in front of him. His business idea had failed. His friends laughed at him for still trying. His family gently suggested he give up and be realistic. The weight of silence filled his small apartment. No one clapped for him. No one noticed the long hours he worked. No results had come yet. He wondered, am I wasting my time? Maybe they're right. Maybe success is only for the lucky ones. But what John did not know was that this was the most important season of his life, the invisible season, where greatness is built before the world can see it. Part 1. The invisible foundation of greatness. Many people live with a dangerous belief. If results don't show quickly, the effort is wasted. They think progress only counts when it can be seen. But that is not true. Real growth often happens in silence, beneath the surface, long before the world ever notices. The results that everyone celebrates are only the tip of the iceberg. The real work, the real foundation, happens in the unseen hours, when there is no applause, no recognition, and no reward. This was the lesson John Miller had to learn. The seed story. One day, John's mentor told him a story. "John," he said, "imagine a farmer who plants a seed today. He waters it faithfully for a week, then looks at the ground and sees nothing. He gets angry and says, 'This is useless. I wasted my time.' So he abandons the field and walks away." John nodded slowly. That sounded familiar. "But," the mentor continued, "another farmer plants the same seed. He waters it daily, even when nothing happens. Weeks pass. Months pass. The soil still looks empty. People laugh at him, saying he is foolish. But he keeps going. And then, one day, that seed breaks through the ground. Strong roots have already been built, and soon it grows into a mighty tree." The mentor leaned closer. "Most people quit too soon, John. They want the fruit without enduring the root-building season. But greatness is built in the dark, in silence, in the times when no one is watching." John thought about this for days. The tree beneath the soil. Think of a tree. For months, the seed lies buried in the soil, showing no signs of life above ground. To the impatient eye, it looks like nothing is happening. But underground, something powerful is taking place. The seed is growing roots, deep, strong, and wide. Without these roots, the tree would collapse the moment it sprouted. When the tree finally breaks through the soil, it doesn't happen overnight. It is the result of months of hidden growth. This is how success works. Every day you show up. Every small action you take. Every habit you repeat. It may look like nothing is happening, but beneath the surface, the foundation of your future is being built. The craftsman's secret. Consider a craftsman in his workshop. For years, he practices the same techniques, shaping wood, carving details, smoothing rough edges. To an outsider, it looks like he is not progressing at all. His work seems the same as it was months ago. But what they cannot see is what's happening inside him. His hands are learning memory. His eye is being trained to see small imperfections. His mind is building patterns that will allow him, one day, to create masterpieces effortlessly. The world sees no results. But progress is happening, quietly, invisibly. The boulder lesson. Imagine a man striking a giant boulder with a hammer. The first strike shows no crack. The second and third blows do nothing. Even after the 100th strike, the stone looks unchanged. To onlookers, the man looks foolish. They laugh at his wasted effort. But inside the rock, something is happening. Each strike is creating tiny fractures, weakening its structure. Then, one day, with a single blow, the boulder suddenly splits in two. Was it the last strike that made it happen? No. It was the 100 before it, unseen, unnoticed, but absolutely necessary. success works the same way. The breakthrough moment people applaud is only the visible result of countless invisible efforts. The bamboo lesson. John's mentor told him another story. Bamboo is watered for 4 years, and it looks like nothing is happening. Just a small sprout, hardly changing. But in the 5th year, it can grow 90 feet in 6 weeks. Those first 4 years weren't wasted. The bamboo was growing roots, preparing for explosive growth. John realized he was in his own bamboo years. What felt like silence and failure was actually preparation. His unseen persistence was building the root system of his future success. The power of consistency. Most people mistake motivation for commitment. They get excited for a few days, work hard, and then quit when they don't see results. But real success isn't built on bursts of enthusiasm. It's built on consistency, on doing the work daily, even when there is no applause. Consistency is the invisible contract with time. You agree to trust that your effort is accumulating, even when you cannot see proof. This is not blind hope. It is wisdom. It is the way every great achievement in history has been built. John's turning point. One evening, after weeks of doubt, John picked up his notebook and wrote in big letters, "I will keep going. Even when no one sees me. Even when there are no results. I will trust the process." From that night forward, something shifted. He stopped looking for instant results. He began to find pride in the work itself. The hours he spent learning, planning, building, and failing no longer felt wasted. They felt like investment. The silence that once discouraged him became his training ground. Final message of Part 1. The invisible season is the most important season. It is the time when you build roots, strengthen your character, and prepare for the success that will one day arrive. Most people quit too soon. But those who stay, those who endure the quiet, lonely, thankless hours, become unstoppable. So if you are in that season right now, do not give up. Do not mistake silence for failure. Beneath the surface, your roots are growing deep. Your time will come. Backhand index pointing right. Part 2 will continue with the power of enduring the plateau. Part 2, the power of persistence and daily discipline. Napoleon Hill story series. Hook. It was raining hard in Chicago the night John Miller almost quit. He had been working on his business for 2 years with little to show for it. His savings were gone. His friends had stopped asking about his big dream. Even his own mind began whispering, "Maybe this is a waste. Maybe you don't have what it takes." But then John remembered something his mentor once told him. The world is full of talented people who quit too early. The graveyard is filled with brilliant minds who abandoned their ideas just before they were about to succeed. The difference between success and failure is not talent, not luck, not resources. It is persistence. John closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and decided, "I will not stop. Not now. Not ever." That decision would change everything. Persistence, the hidden power. What separates those who succeed from those who fail is not always intelligence, skill, or opportunity. It is the ability to keep going when persistence feels pointless. Think of all the inventions we enjoy today. Behind every invention was someone who refused to stop. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before creating the light bulb. Henry Ford went broke more than once before building the automobile empire. These men were not lucky. They were persistent. They had the courage to continue when nothing seemed to work. Persistence is the invisible force that turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results. Without it, talent remains unused, resources stay idle, and potential goes to the grave. Building faith in the process, but persistence alone is not enough. To persist, you must also develop faith in the process. Faith in the process is not blind hope. It is not sitting and waiting for a miracle. It is educated trust, based on the understanding of how achievement really works. Most people expect progress to be quick, visible, and predictable. They want results in a week, sometimes in a day. And when results don't come, they give up. But real progress doesn't move in a straight line. It moves in waves. It comes in cycles, plateaus, struggles, and then sudden breakthroughs. The muscle story: consider how a muscle grows. When you lift weights, you are not immediately growing stronger. In fact, you are tearing muscle fibers apart. To the untrained eye, it looks harmful. But your body responds by rebuilding the muscle stronger than before. The rebuilding happens slowly, often when you are resting, not when you are lifting. If you judge progress after the first workout, you might conclude that exercise makes you weaker. But over weeks and months, the truth reveals itself. Strength comes only to those who trust the process and stay consistent. Life works the same way. When you face difficulties, when challenges break down your old habits, it may feel like you are going backward. But in reality, you are building something stronger: resilience, patience, and character. The river that never stops. Faith in the process also means releasing your obsession with timelines. Think of a river. The river does not stop flowing just because it hasn't reached the ocean in a certain number of days. It doesn't quit because mountains slow it down or rocks block its path. It simply keeps flowing, adjusting its direction when needed, but always moving forward. Your persistence must be like that river. You may face delays. You may face detours. But you must keep flowing toward your goal, certain that your journey will carry you where you belong. Discipline, the silent partner of persistence. Persistence gives you the courage to keep going. But discipline gives you the structure to keep moving daily. Many people mistake discipline for punishment. They think it restricts freedom. But in truth, discipline is the greatest form of freedom you can give yourself. It frees you from the chaos of random effort. It frees you from regret and wasted time. It frees you from the cycle of starting strong, stopping, and starting again. Discipline is the bridge between dreams and reality. The musician's story: John's mentor once gave him another example. Imagine a young musician, he said. Without discipline, she practices only when she feels inspired. One day she practices for hours. Then she skips weeks. Her skills rise and fall, but she never improves consistently. But with discipline, the mentor continued, she practices every single day, even for just 30 minutes. Over time, her fingers remember the keys, her ears sharpen to the notes, and what once seemed impossible becomes second nature. Discipline is the secret to mastery. It compounds small daily actions into extraordinary results. Small steps, big changes. Most people fail at discipline because they try to do too much too quickly. They set goals so large that they overwhelm themselves. The key is to start small. If you want to write a book, start by writing 1 sentence a day. If you want to get fit, start with 1 push-up a day. If you want to learn a new skill, practice for 5 minutes daily. These actions may seem small, but they create the habit of daily discipline. Once the habit is formed, you naturally increase the effort. 1 sentence becomes 1 page. 1 push-up becomes 20. 5 minutes becomes an hour. The power is not in how much you do at first, but in how consistently you do it. John's breakthrough: John Miller applied this lesson. Instead of focusing on building his entire business at once, he committed to 1 disciplined action every day. Some days it was making 1 phone call. Other days it was reading for an hour, or working on a single page of his business plan. To outsiders, it looked like nothing had changed. His results were still invisible. But inside John, something powerful was happening. He was building self-trust. Every time he followed through, he proved to himself that he could keep promises to himself. That self-trust became his fuel. Months later, when opportunity finally came, John was ready. The foundation he had built in silence made him strong enough to handle visible success. Final message of Part 2: the difference between those who succeed and those who fail is not talent, luck, or resources. It is persistence backed by daily discipline. When you develop faith in the process, you stop judging your progress by short-term results. You learn to see setbacks not as signs of failure, but as proof of growth. You release the need for quick rewards and instead commit to steady effort. Discipline makes this possible. By practicing small, consistent actions every day, you create unstoppable momentum. So ask yourself, are you willing to keep going when persistence seems pointless? Are you willing to trust the process when results are invisible? Are you willing to build discipline, even in the smallest steps? If the answer is yes, then you are already walking the path to greatness. Because persistence and discipline, combined, are the two greatest powers you can ever develop. Backhand index pointing right. Part 3 will continue with the hidden power of silent effort. Part 3: Mastering Delayed Gratification and the Compound Effect. Napoleon Hill Story Series. Hook. One summer afternoon, a young man named Daniel sat in a small coffee shop with a look of frustration on his face. "I don't get it," he said to his mentor. "I've been working hard, but I don't see any results. Everyone else seems to be moving faster. Maybe I should just take it easy for a while. Maybe I should enjoy life now instead of waiting for some future payoff that may never come." The mentor leaned back, stirred his coffee slowly, and replied, "Daniel, do you know why most people never succeed? It is not because they lack talent, opportunity, or intelligence. It is because they cannot wait. They sacrifice their future for the comfort of the present. They trade lasting success for fleeting pleasures. The greatest power you can develop is the ability to delay gratification." Daniel didn't understand it at first. But what he would later discover is this: the difference between mediocrity and greatness is often just a matter of patience. Why delayed gratification is a superpower. We live in a world of instant everything. Instant food, instant messages, instant entertainment. Society has trained us to expect rewards quickly, but lasting success is never instant. Greatness belongs only to those willing to wait, to sacrifice temporary comfort for long-term fulfillment. Delayed gratification is not about denying yourself pleasure. It is about choosing better pleasures, the kind that require patience and persistence to obtain. Imagine standing before two paths. The first path is smooth and easy. It gives comfort right away, but it leads to an ordinary destination. The second path is narrow, rocky, and difficult. It demands endurance and sacrifice. But at the end of this path lies a breathtaking view, a reward that only the persistent will ever see. Most people choose the easy path. They eat for comfort instead of health. They spend for pleasure instead of saving for freedom. They entertain themselves instead of educating themselves. And then they wonder why life feels ordinary. The successful few choose the difficult path. They wake early to work on their goals. They study when they would rather rest. They invest instead of spending. Their sacrifices compound into extraordinary rewards. The small delay that builds strength. The ability to delay gratification is not something you are born with. It is a skill you develop, like a muscle. Start small. If you normally check your phone the instant a message arrives, wait 5 minutes before responding. If you usually give in to a craving immediately, pause for 10 minutes before deciding. If you're tempted to buy something impulsively, wait 1 day before making the purchase. These small delays create space between impulse and action. Over time, this strengthens your self-control. 5 minutes becomes an hour. An hour becomes a day. What once felt impossible becomes second nature. Every small delay you practice is a deposit into your account of self-mastery. Vision makes sacrifice meaningful, of course. No one enjoys sacrifice for its own sake. What makes delayed gratification powerful is having a clear vision of what you are working toward. Think of a runner training for a marathon. Every morning run is uncomfortable. The legs ache. The lungs burn. But the runner pushes forward because they can see the finish line in their mind. That vision makes the pain meaningful. The same principle applies to your life. The student who studies while friends party does so because they can envision the career opportunities ahead. The entrepreneur who works long nights does so because they see the freedom that their business will one day provide. Without vision, sacrifice feels like punishment. With vision, sacrifice becomes investment. The hidden cost of instant gratification: most people don't fail because they lack opportunity. They fail because they underestimate the cost of instant gratification. Every time you choose short-term comfort over long-term progress, you don't just delay your dreams, you move further away from them. The cost is not only what you fail to gain, but also what you actively lose. Hitting snooze instead of rising early costs you hours of productive time. Spending money on fleeting pleasures costs you the security and freedom that savings bring. Choosing entertainment over education costs you the skills that could change your future. Once you truly understand this cost, instant gratification stops looking like a pleasure and starts looking like a trap. The power of small daily choices: here's the secret that most people miss. Success is not built on big dramatic actions, it is built on small daily choices. Wake up when the alarm rings or hit snooze. Eat something nutritious or something convenient. Read 10 pages of a book or scroll through entertainment. Practice a valuable skill or waste time on distractions. Individually, each choice seems meaningless. But compounded over weeks, months, and years, these choices determine the entire direction of your life. The book example: suppose you read just 10 pages a day. That's only about 15 minutes. One day, it feels like nothing. 1 week, still small. But after a year, you've read over 3,500 pages, the equivalent of 10 to 15 life-changing books. Now compare that to someone who spends 15 minutes a day on mindless entertainment. After a year, they have nothing to show for it but wasted time. The difference is invisible in the moment, but monumental in the long run. The fitness example: the same is true of physical fitness. One workout will not change your body. Skipping one workout won't ruin you either. But compounded over months, the difference is dramatic. The person who exercises consistently transforms. The person who skips consistently declines. Both are shaped not by one big decision, but by small daily choices that compounded quietly until the results became undeniable. The compound effect in action: success works exactly like compound interest in finance. The returns start small, almost invisible. But with consistency, they grow larger and faster until they become unstoppable. This is why most people quit too early. They start strong, full of motivation. But after a few weeks of effort with no visible results, they lose faith. They skip a day, then another. Eventually, they abandon the process entirely, just before the compound effect would have begun to reward them. The tragedy is not that they failed, it is that they quit too soon. How to harness the compound effect: 1. Find joy in the process. Don't wait for dramatic results to feel successful. Take pride in the small actions themselves. Point 2. Track your actions, not your outcomes. Record whether you followed through each day, even if results are invisible. Point 3. Start small, stay consistent. Build momentum with simple commitments. Expand only after the habit is secure. Point 4. Keep your vision alive. Remind yourself daily of the future rewards your sacrifices are creating. Daniel's turning point: Daniel took his mentor's advice. Instead of chasing quick results, he committed to small daily disciplines: reading 10 pages, making one business call, saving a small portion of income, and exercising for 20 minutes. At first, nothing changed. Weeks passed. Months passed. Friends teased him, saying, "Why work so hard for nothing?" But Daniel trusted the process. He saw each action as an investment, not a waste. A year later, his body was stronger, his knowledge broader, his savings account healthier, and his business ready for opportunities he would never have seen without persistence. What looked like small sacrifices had compounded into a transformation. Final message of Part 3: Mastering delayed gratification is the gateway to true success. It is the ability to choose future greatness over present comfort, to invest daily in actions that compound into extraordinary results. Remember, the small actions you take, or fail to take, each day are writing the story of your future. So ask yourself, will I take the easy path of instant gratification, or the hard path that leads to greatness? Will I let small sacrifices discourage me? Or will I see them as powerful investments? Will I quit when results are invisible? Or will I trust the compound effect until it becomes undeniable? The choice is yours. And the choice you make daily will determine not just your achievements, but the entire direction of your life. Part 4: The Power of Persistence. The rain had not stopped for 3 days. Daniel sat by the window of his small rented room, staring at the wet streets below. The world seemed gray, and his spirit felt just as heavy. He had been working hard, yet the results were not showing. He wanted to give up. Inside him, a voice whispered, "Maybe this dream is not for you. Maybe you should go back to an ordinary life." But another voice rose, faint yet firm. "Remember why you started. Remember the fire inside you. Winners never quit." Daniel leaned back in his chair. He thought about the great men he had read about: Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Andrew Carnegie. Each of them faced failure after failure, yet they pressed on. They had persistence, the golden key that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. The meeting with Mr. Harris. The next day, Daniel forced himself out of bed and went to see Mr. Harris, the old bookstore owner who had become a quiet mentor to him. The store smelled of old paper and wisdom. "Mr. Harris," Daniel said, "I feel like I'm walking in circles. I've tried again and again, but success seems far away. Maybe I should stop." Mr. Harris looked up from behind his glasses and smiled gently. "Daniel, tell me, how many times do you think Edison failed before inventing the light bulb?" "I don't know," Daniel replied. "Over 10,000 attempts," Mr. Harris said firmly. "Do you think the world would have light if he gave up after 100 failures? Or 1,000? Daniel's eyes widened. "You see, persistence," Mr. Harris continued, "is the price every man must pay for greatness. Most people quit when success is only one step away. They stop digging when they are just 3 feet from gold." Daniel leaned forward. "But what if I try and still fail?" Mr. Harris chuckled. "Failure is not the opposite of success. It is a part of success. Every failure carries a seed of equal or greater benefit. Your job is to find that seed and keep going." Those words struck Daniel like lightning. He realized he had been looking at failure as the end, when in truth, it was only a teacher. The carpenter's story. Mr. Harris then told him a story. "There was once a carpenter," he said, "who worked for a rich man. The carpenter grew tired of building houses for others, so one day, he decided to quit. Before leaving, the rich man asked him to build one last house. The carpenter agreed, but his heart was not in it. He used cheap wood, weak nails, and poor design. When the house was finished, the rich man handed the keys to the carpenter and said, "This is your house, my gift to you." The carpenter stood in shame. He realized he had built his own home with poor effort. If only he had stayed persistent and given his best, He would now be living in a strong and beautiful house. Daniel lowered his head. The story cut deep into his heart. He understood that quitting or giving half effort would only hurt himself. His dream was his house. If he built it carelessly, he would be the one living inside its weakness. Testing persistence from that day, Daniel promised himself that he would persist, no matter how many failures came his way. The next weeks were difficult. He faced rejection after rejection. People said no to his ideas. Some laughed at him. Some ignored him. But Daniel remembered Mr. Harris's words. Most quit when they are 3 feet from gold. So Daniel kept going. Each morning he repeated to himself, I am persistent. I am closer than I think. He worked late nights, learning new skills. He saved small amounts of money and reinvested them into his dream. He forced himself to speak with people who could open doors, even when fear tried to hold him back. And slowly, doors began to open. The breakthrough one afternoon, after months of persistence, Daniel was invited to present his idea to a group of businessmen. He prepared carefully, pouring his heart into the presentation. When he finished, silence filled the room. He feared rejection once again. Then one of the men leaned forward. Young man, your idea has promise. We will support you. Daniel could hardly believe his ears. The very thing he had prayed for was now in front of him. And he realized it had come not through luck, but through persistence, through the decision to keep going when everything told him to quit. The lesson of part 4 that night, Daniel walked home with tears in his eyes, not of sadness but of joy. He whispered to himself, if I had quit yesterday, I would have never seen today's success. He understood now. Persistence turns failure into stepping stones. Persistence turns rejection into redirection. Persistence separates the dreamers from the achievers. Every man and woman must decide, will they stop when the road gets hard, or will they press forward until the door finally opens? Napoleon Hill once said, a quitter never wins, and a winner never quits. Daniel now carried those words like a sword in his heart. And so must you. Call to you, friend. If you are walking your own path, facing your own struggles, remember Daniel's story. Remember Edison's 10,000 failures. Remember the carpenter who built his own house. Do not stop. Do not surrender. Success may be just 3 feet away. Keep digging. Keep believing. Keep persisting. Because persistence is the bridge between dreams and reality. White heavy checkmark. End of part 4. Approximate 1,000 words. Would you like me to also prepare part 5 in the same style? 1,000 words, story format, Napoleon Hill inspired, so you'll have it ready next? Part 5. The power of persistence. Daniel sat at his small wooden desk, staring at the candle flame flickering against the night air. His journal lay open, filled with lessons he had learned over the past months. Lessons about purpose, decision, courage, and the quiet strength of inner discipline. Yet tonight, he felt something pressing on his mind, the danger of stopping too soon. Earlier that day, Daniel had visited an old stone quarry on the edge of town. He had seen men chiseling away at massive rocks, sweat pouring from their brows. One young worker, frustrated, threw down his hammer after hours of striking without a single visible crack. But not long after he left, another worker stepped up, gave a single strike, and the stone split wide open. The overseer smiled and said to Daniel, "It wasn't the last blow that broke the stone, it was all the blows before it." That image burned in Daniel's heart. He realized that persistence, the steady hammering of effort, even when results seemed invisible, was the very key that separated winners from quitters. Napoleon Hill himself had written, "Most people quit when success is just around the corner." Daniel now knew he must never let that be his story. The temptation to quit that week, Daniel began a new project. building a small workshop to start his own trade. At first, his excitement was high. He planned, measured, and laid out his tools with energy. But soon, reality tested him. Rain washed away part of his foundation. Lumber was delayed. Money ran tight. Friends doubted him, whispering, "Maybe this dream is too big for you." The voice of discouragement grew louder each day. Daniel felt the pull of quitting, telling himself it was not the right time, or maybe not meant for me. But one night, he remembered the quarry. He wrote in his journal, "Every strike counts, even if I cannot see the crack. If I stop now, all my effort dies with me. If I persist, the stone will break." Protecting energy, Daniel also noticed another truth. Not all battles were worth fighting. People tried to pull him into endless debates, gossip, and distractions. Each one drained his energy, leaving him weaker for his real work. So, he began to protect his energy as carefully as a farmer guards his seed. He refused to argue with naysayers. He limited time with those who complained but never acted. Instead, he surrounded himself with people of vision, men and women who believed in building, creating, and pressing forward. Napoleon Hill once said, "Your real wealth is time and energy. Spend it wisely." Daniel lived by that rule. His strength no longer leaked away in useless struggles. It burned, focused like fire, on his chosen purpose. The long road weeks turned into months. Progress was slow. Some nights Daniel worked by lantern light, his hands blistered, his back aching. The easy path whispered again, "Stop. Rest. Give up." But Daniel answered with persistence. He reminded himself of his why, his purpose of creating something that would serve others and give his life meaning. He remembered the quarry stone, the unseen blows. Each day, no matter how small, he took one step forward. One board nailed. One stone placed. One problem solved. These tiny victories built a wall of confidence inside him, brick by brick. The breakthrough then came the day. The workshop stood finished. The sun rose, shining through its windows, and Daniel felt tears well in his eyes. This building was more than wood and stone. It was proof of persistence. Proof that he had not surrendered when quitting looked easy. Neighbors walked by, surprised. "We thought you'd given up," they said. But Daniel only smiled. He knew the secret. Persistence is invisible until the moment of breakthrough. The lesson that evening, he gathered the young men of the village, telling them his story. He spoke of the quarry, the blows against the stone, the temptation to quit, and the power of steady effort. "Success," he said, "belongs to those who stay when others walk away. You may not see progress for weeks, months, even years. But every effort builds pressure beneath the surface. And one day, when you least expect it, the stone will break. Protect your energy. Guard your time. Persist when the world whispers quit. That is the way of greatness." The call to you, dear reader, Daniel's lesson is your lesson. You may be facing your own stone, a business, a dream, a goal, or a change in your life. The strikes feel endless. The cracks unseen. Discouragement whispers in your ear. But hear this truth, you are closer than you think. Persistence is the bridge between effort and reward. Protect your energy. Refuse distractions. Keep striking. Your stone will break. If you do not quit. White heavy check mark. End of part 5. Part 6. The Master Key. Becoming unshakable. The sun had not yet risen when Daniel woke up that morning. The world was still wrapped in silence, the streets empty, the air fresh with the quiet promise of a new day. He sat by his small wooden desk, pen in hand, notebook open, and he wrote just one sentence. "I will not break." It was not written as a boast. been tested in every way, by fear, by doubt, by temptation, and by failure. But each trial had taught him something that no book, no teacher, and no success could have taught him. Now he understood what his mentor had been trying to tell him all along. Success is not built on talent, or luck, or even intelligence. It is built on resilience, the ability to rise again, the ability to face storms without crumbling, the ability to walk forward even when the path is covered in fog. The last lesson a few weeks earlier, Daniel had been standing at the edge of quitting. His business was struggling, his friends doubted him, and even his own heart whispered, "Maybe this is not for you." But then he remembered the words of his mentor. You do not have to win every battle. You only have to refuse to surrender. That night, instead of giving up, Daniel stayed awake until dawn. He reviewed his mistakes. He changed his approach. He wrote down exactly what he could do differently. And slowly, like a craftsman shaping stone, he carved a new plan. When he tried again, things did not immediately fall into place. But something inside him had changed. He was no longer shaken by rejection, no longer broken by criticism, no longer defeated by delay. He had become unshakable. The invisible growth. Most people did not notice the transformation at first. His neighbors still saw the young man who had failed many times. His friends still teased him about his stubborn dreams. The outside world still judged him by visible results. But inside, Daniel knew something remarkable had happened. He had learned to control his thoughts, because he discovered that every defeat begins in the mind before it shows in reality. He had learned to guard his emotions, because he realized that peace of mind was his greatest power. He had learned to trust in his purpose, because he knew that no storm could destroy what was built on faith. Day by day, he was no longer driven by fear of failure. Instead, he was pulled forward by a vision so clear that no opinion could blur it. The turning point, and then, one morning, the opportunity he had been waiting for arrived. It came in the form of a small partnership offer, something modest, nothing grand. But Daniel had trained himself to see what others ignored. Where others saw something small, he saw a seed. Where others saw risk, he saw reward. He took the chance. And because he had already built discipline, resilience, and clarity, the seed grew. Slowly at first, then faster. The business expanded. The results finally became visible. And those who once doubted him began to ask for his advice. But Daniel smiled quietly, because he knew that the true success was not in the numbers, or the applause, or the recognition. The true success was this: he had become the kind of person who could not be broken. The master key revealed. Daniel's mentor visited him again, this time not with warnings, but with acknowledgement. "You have learned the greatest lesson," the old man said. "Most people search for shortcuts. They beg for luck. They chase after secrets. But the real secret is simple: become the person who cannot be stopped. When you master yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, then no storm can shake you. Wealth will follow, opportunities will come, respect will grow, but those are just shadows of the real prize. The real prize is the man you have become." Daniel bowed his head. He understood. The journey had never been about money or recognition. It had always been about building himself into someone who could carry any weight, face any fear, and rise after any fall. This was the master key Napoleon Hill had spoken of. Not talent, not luck, not even opportunity, but inner strength and persistence. The closing scene that evening, Daniel walked through the same streets where he had once wandered aimlessly, lost and uncertain. But now, every step carried a weight of confidence. The doors that had once been closed to him were now opening. The voices that had mocked him were now silent. And yet, none of that mattered as much as the quiet truth he carried in his heart. "I will not break. I will rise always. The story of Daniel is not about one man. It is the story of anyone who decides to stop waiting for luck, to stop bowing to fear, and to stop surrendering to failure. It is the story of those who build themselves until nothing can shake them. And now, it can be your story too. Final words to you: if you have walked through fire, if you have faced rejection, if you have been tempted to quit, remember Daniel's lesson: control your thoughts. They are the architects of your destiny. Guard your emotions. Peace of mind is your shield. Hold to your purpose. It is the compass that will never fail you. Refuse to quit. Because every storm will pass, but your strength will remain. You do not need permission. You do not need perfect timing. You only need the decision to rise. The world bows, not to those who are lucky, but to those who cannot be broken. So write it down today as Daniel did. I will not break. And let the world witness the unshakable force you will become. Call to action: if Daniel's story has touched you, inspired you, or awakened something inside you, don't let the fire die here. Backhand index pointing right. Subscribe to this channel for more life-changing lessons. Backhand index pointing right. Share this story with someone who needs strength today. Backhand index pointing right, and leave a comment below. Right, I will not break. If you're ready to become unshakable, because your journey doesn't end here, it begins now. Sparkles end of series, the invisible growth. Process sparkles.